I had always thought that love was enough. My wife Jenna and I had been together for nearly 8 years. We had built a life together in our little suburban home, complete with a golden retriever named Max and a backyard where we planted tomatoes every summer. At first, everything felt perfect, but over the last year, things started to shift, slowly at first, like a fog creeping in on a sunny day. It was subtle, really. Jenna began coming home later from her gang intervention program meetings. At first, I shrugged it off, thinking she was just busy helping the kids in the community. She was passionate about her job, and I admired that about her. But then there were the little things, longer phone calls that she took outside, her sudden need for privacy with her phone, and the way she would snap at me over trivial things. It felt like she was pulling away, and the nagging feeling in my gut grew worse with each passing day. One evening, I found myself staring at the clock, waiting for her to come home. I had prepared her favorite meal, hoping it would ease the tension that seemed to hang between us. When she finally walked in, the smell of perfume hit me like a freight train. It was unfamiliar, a scent I had never smelled on her before. I tried to brush it off, convincing myself that it could have been from a coworker or a friend. But the more I thought about it, the more it gnawed at me. The breaking point came a few days later. I had decided to do a little digging, nothing too invasive, just checking her social media and seeing if there were any hints about her behavior. I stumbled upon a few photos tagged with Jenna at an event I hadn't known about. She was smiling, her arms wrapped around someone I didn't recognize. It was a man, and they didn't look like they were just friends, if you catch my drift. Something about the way they were posing together felt intimate, and my stomach twisted in knots. I confronted her that night. My heart raced as I demanded to know who this guy was. Jenna's response was a mix of anger and denial. "It's just a photo," she exclaimed, her voice dripping with irritation. "You're being paranoid." But there was something in her eyes, a flicker of guilt I couldn't ignore. As we argued, she tried to deflect, throwing accusations back at me about how I was never home enough or how I didn't pay enough attention to her. It felt like a calculated distraction, a way to shift the conversation away from her. "Are you cheating on me, Jenna?" I asked flatly, my voice trembling with emotion. For a moment her face went pale, and I could see the gears turning in her head as she searched for a lie. "Of course not. I would never do that to you," she said, but the conviction in her voice was lacking. I felt the walls closing in around me, suffocating me with disbelief. How could someone I loved so deeply betray me like this? The emotional pain hit me like a ton of bricks. I could feel the anger boiling inside me, mixed with a deep sadness that I had never known before. I spent the night on the couch, trying to process everything. The betrayal felt like a heavy weight on my chest, a storm of emotions swirling inside me. I thought about all the moments we had shared, the laughter and love that now felt tainted. I was angry, yes, but there was also a profound sense of loss. How could she do this? Why wasn't I enough for her? As the sun rose, illuminating the room, I struggled with the decision of what to do next. Could I confront her again? Could I trust her again? The question of whether to fight for our marriage or to walk away loomed over me like a dark cloud, and I was left grappling with the reality of my situation, unsure of how my heart would heal from this betrayal. But one thing was clear: I could not let this slide. I needed to find out the truth, and I needed to make a plan that would allow me to reclaim my power and my sense of self in the face of this shattered trust. The days following the confrontation were a blur. I felt like I was walking through a fog, each moment dragging as I replayed our arguments and the look in Jenna's eyes when I called her out. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story, and I was determined to uncover the truth behind her late nights and secret phone calls. I started by observing her behavior more closely. Jenna was still going to her gang intervention program, but I noticed she was now more guarded about her phone. She would keep it face down on the table, and if I walked by, she'd quickly lock it, as if I were some kind of threat. I had never been the jealous type, but her actions began to eat away at me. I felt like I was in a twisted game of cat and mouse, and the stakes were my heart. One afternoon, I decided to check her social media again, hopping to find more clues. I scrolled through her posts, looking for any sign of the man from the photo. That's when I stumbled upon a comment that made my blood run cold. It was from a guy named Derek, a name I hadn't heard before. He commented on a recent post, "Can't wait to see you again, gorgeous. You were on fire at last week's event." The comment was flirty and it made my stomach churn. I did a quick search for Derek's profile. He was the gang intervention program coordinator, the one Jenna had been working closely with for months. A wave of realization hit me like a freight train. This was who she had been spending all that time with. My instincts had been right. The pieces of the puzzle began to come together, and the weight of betrayal pressed heavily on my chest. I needed proof. I needed to confront her with undeniable evidence. So I devised a plan. I would follow her the next time she told me she had a late meeting. It was risky, but I felt I had no choice. I couldn't just sit back and let this happen. I wanted to confront her with the truth, and I needed to see it for myself. The following Tuesday, she told me she had a meeting that would run late. I pretended to be supportive, kissing her goodbye and wishing her luck. As soon as she left, my heart raced with anticipation and dread. I grabbed my keys and headed out, following her car at a safe distance. I felt like a character in a cheesy thriller, but I couldn't help it. I had to know. I followed her to a small cafe on the outskirts of town, a place I had never seen her mention before. I parked my car a few blocks away and walked toward the cafe, my heart pounding in my chest. Through the window, I saw her sitting at a table, laughing. But it wasn't just her laughter that sent a chill down my spine. It was the way she leaned forward, her hand brushing against Derek's arm as he spoke animatedly. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to turn around and leave, to walk away and preserve my sanity. But I couldn't tear my eyes away. I felt like I was witnessing a betrayal play out in real time, my stomach knotting tighter with each passing second. It was clear that this was more than just a professional relationship. There was chemistry between them, the kind that made my heart break a little more with every glance. Suddenly, my phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a text from one of our mutual friends, asking if I had heard from Jenna. I quickly silenced my phone, not wanting to draw attention to myself. But that brief distraction was enough to make me lose focus. Just then, Derek leaned in closer and Jenna's laughter rang out bright and carefree. I felt something snap inside me. Fueled by anger and betrayal, I decided I couldn't just sit there anymore. I had to confront her. I stormed into the cafe, my heart racing and adrenaline pumping through my veins. I marched straight to their table, pushing past the other patrons who stared in shock as I approached. "Jenna," I called out, my voice filled with a mix of hurt and rage. The two of them turned to face me, and I could see the shock register on her face. Derek looked taken aback, but Jenna quickly masked her surprise with annoyance. "What the hell are you doing here?" Jenna snapped, her tone defensive. "I could ask you the same thing," I shot back, my voice steady, but inside I was trembling. "What's going on between you two?" Jenna stood up, her face flushed with anger and embarrassment. "This is none of your business. You have no right to barge in here." But I wasn't backing down. "It is my business when you're out here pretending everything is fine while you're flirting with your coordinator. It's why you've been coming home late." A silence fell over the cafe. People were watching us and I felt exposed, but I didn't care. Jenna's eyes narrowed, and for a brief moment I thought I saw guilt flash across her face before she quickly masked it with defiance. "You don't know what you're talking about," she shot back, but her voice trembled slightly. "Derek is just a friend." "Just a friend," I scoffed. "You've been acting suspicious for months, Jenna. I know about the photos, the comments, everything." She opened her mouth to respond, but nothing came out. The anger in her eyes turned to something else, fear perhaps. I was ready for her to confess, to at least admit there was something wrong. But instead she doubled down. "You're being paranoid and controlling. You need to trust me." Trust? How could I trust her when everything pointed to a betrayal? The emotional turmoil inside me was about to boil over. My next words came out more forcefully than I intended. "I can't believe you would do this to me." Jenna glanced at Derek, who was now awkwardly shifting in his seat. "I need to go," I said flatly, feeling the weight of everything crashing down on me. I turned away, my heart racing, leaving the cafe and all its chaos behind. As I drove home, the reality of the situation sank in. I was left with a choice: to confront this head-on or to walk away from a marriage that felt like it was crumbling before my eyes. I wasn't ready to let go, but I also knew I couldn't keep living in a lie. I needed to take control of my life, and that meant making some tough decisions. The drive home felt like an eternity. My mind was racing, replaying the scene at the cafe over and over again. I couldn't comprehend how Jenna could sit there, that smirk on her face, pretending that everything was fine while flirting with Derek right in front of me. The sting of betrayal was raw, sharper than any physical pain I had ever experienced. I felt like a fool for trusting her. When I finally got home, I sat on the couch in silence, staring at the walls that had witnessed years of laughter, love, and now heartbreak. Max, our golden retriever, came over and laid his head on my lap, sensing my turmoil. I absent-mindedly stroked his fur, grateful for his unconditional love. He didn't care about my problems. He just wanted to be by my side. Jenna came home about an hour later, and I braced myself for the confrontation I knew was inevitable. She walked in, her demeanor shifting from defensive to guilty as she saw me sitting there in the dim light. "We need to talk," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, but I could feel the tremor of anger bubbling underneath. "About what?" she asked, trying to feign innocence as she tossed her bag onto the chair and walked into the kitchen. "Don't play games, Jenna," I replied, my voice rising. "You know exactly what I want to talk about." She turned to face me, her expression a mix of irritation and annoyance. "You're making a big deal out of nothing. I told you Derek is just a friend." "You're being paranoid." "Paranoid? You're kidding, right?" I shot back, trying to keep my composure. "You were just flirting with him in front of me. How can you deny that?" Jenna crossed her arms, and I could see her walls go up. "I was not flirting. You're just overreacting because you're insecure." My heart sank at her words. Insecure. Was that what she thought of me? I took a deep breath, trying to center myself. "This isn't about insecurity. This is about trust. You've broken it, Jenna. You've been lying to me." She rolled her eyes, a classic Jenna move that I had come to loathe in this moment. "You're being dramatic. This is ridiculous. You're blowing everything out of proportion because you think I'm cheating." "Because you are cheating," I yelled, the frustration spilling out. "This isn't just some misunderstanding. I can feel it in my bones. I followed you. I saw you with Derek." The color drained from her face, and for a split second I thought I saw a flicker of fear in her eyes, but it vanished quickly, replaced by anger. "You followed me. That's incredibly disrespectful. You have no right to invade my privacy like that." I shook my head, exasperated. "What about my right to not be deceived? What about my trust? You've been distant for months. And now I find out you're out here pretending everything is fine with someone else." "Stop being such a drama queen," she spat. "You're making this into a huge issue that it doesn't have to be. I'm not cheating on you. But you're lying, Jenna. Lying by omission is still lying." I clenched my fists, trying to keep my emotions in check. "You've been keeping secrets from me. You're not the person I thought I married." The silence that followed was heavy, and it felt as if we were both suspended in time, caught in a reality neither of us wanted to face. Jenna looked at me, tears welling in her eyes. "You're making a mistake, you know. I don't want to lose you over this." "Then stop lying and come clean," I replied, my voice softer now, but the hurt still echoed within me. "You need to be honest with me if you want to salvage this. I can't keep pretending everything is okay when it's not." She took a step back, her expression softening slightly. "What do you want me to say? That I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make you feel like this. I'm just trying to help people." "Helping people doesn't mean you have to betray your husband," I shot back. "You're using your work as an excuse to justify what you're doing. Do you even realize how much this hurts me?" "I never meant to hurt you," she exclaimed, her voice breaking. "I thought you trusted me. I thought you knew me better than this." "I did trust you," I said, my voice cracking. "But you're making it impossible for me to keep doing that. You're pushing me away, Jenna. You're acting like I'm the problem, but you're the one who has chosen to be dishonest." There was a long pause as we both absorbed the weight of our words. I wanted to see remorse in her eyes, a flicker of understanding that she had crossed a line. But all I saw was defiance and hurt, and it was tearing me apart. "Maybe we need to take a break," I finally said, the words tasting bitter on my tongue. "I can't keep doing this. I need time to think." Jenna's expression shifted from anger to shock. Break, are you serious? Yes, I replied, my voice firm despite the trembling in my heart. I need to figure out what I want and what we are. I can't keep living in this limbo of doubt and lies. She looked at me, her face a mixture of disbelief and desperation. You can't be serious, you're just going to walk away. I'm not walking away, I said, my voice softening. I'm trying to find a way back to myself. This isn't the life I signed up for. I need to find clarity. Jenna's eyes brimmed with tears, and I felt a pang of guilt, but I knew I couldn't second-guess myself. I needed to draw a line in the sand. Fine, she said, her voice barely above a whisper, if that's what you want. As she turned away, I could feel the weight of the decision pressing down on us both, and it felt like a door was closing, leaving behind echoes of everything we had built. I had wanted to believe in our love, but now I was left with questions, uncertainty, and a heart aching for answers. The reality of our situation was clear. I had to focus on my own healing. I needed to figure out what love truly meant in the face of betrayal. As I watched her retreat to the bedroom, I sensed that this was just the beginning of a long and painful journey, one that would test the very foundation of our relationship. The next few days were a blur of emotions. I didn't know what the next steps would be, but I was determined to take control of my life and my feelings. Jenna and I lived in the same house, but it felt like we were on opposite sides of a vast chasm. We avoided each other as much as possible, and when we did cross paths, the tension was palpable. I could feel the weight of unspoken words hanging heavily in the air. I took time to reflect on everything. I reached out to a few close friends, confiding in them about the situation. Their support meant the world to me. They reminded me that I deserved to be in a relationship built on trust and respect, not one marred by deceit. One friend, Mark, suggested I focus on myself for a while, to reconnect with who I was outside of the marriage. That's when I decided to get involved in some community activities. I had always enjoyed volunteering, but over the years, I had let it fall to the wayside, consumed by the routines of daily life and my job. I signed up for a local charity event organized for at-risk youth, and it felt liberating to do something meaningful. It gave me purpose, something to focus on outside of the turmoil at home. Meanwhile, Jenna tried to reach out to me, but I kept my distance. I could see the effort she was making, but the trust had been shattered. I couldn't muster the energy to engage in conversations filled with half-hearted apologies and empty promises. I needed to know that she was genuinely remorseful, that she understood the depth of her betrayal. One evening, she approached me while I was sitting on the porch, lost in thought. "Can we talk?" she asked softly, her voice shaky. I looked up, surprised to see her vulnerability. The defiance I had seen before was gone, replaced by a sincere pleading in her eyes. "Do you really want to?" I replied, my voice steady but guarded. "Because the last time we talked, it didn't go so well." "I know," she admitted, taking a seat beside me. "I've had time to think, and I realize that I've been a terrible wife. I should have been more transparent, and I'm so sorry for hurting you." Her words were a step in the right direction, but I couldn't shake the feeling of resentment that lingered. Apologies are just words, Jenna. Actions speak louder than anything else. You need to show me that you're willing to put in the effort to rebuild this trust. "I will," she insisted, her eyes wide with desperation. "I'll do whatever it takes, I promise. I never wanted to hurt you. I got caught up in my work and I allowed myself to get too close to Derek, but I love you and I don't want to lose you." I sighed, feeling the weight of her words. "Love isn't just about feelings, it's about commitment and loyalty. You've made me question everything we built together." "I understand that," she said, tears spilling down her cheeks. "And I want to work on our marriage. I'll go to counseling, I'll be more open, whatever it takes. I'm willing to change." I studied her for a moment, searching her face for any hint of dishonesty, but all I could see was her vulnerability. But vulnerability alone wasn't enough. "It's going to take time for me to trust you again," I replied. "You need to understand that." "Then give me that time," she pleaded. "I'll do my best to show you how much I want this, how much I want us." I nodded slowly, feeling the flicker of hope in my chest battling against the bitterness that had taken root. "Okay, but this is fragile. We need to take it one step at a time." "Agreed," she replied, wiping her tears away as she took a deep breath. "I'll make it right, I promise." As we sat in silence, I could feel the tension beginning to ease, but I remained cautious. I wanted to believe her, but my heart was still raw from the betrayal. I needed to protect myself while finding a way to navigate this fragile territory we were now in. In the days that followed, Jenna did her best to show me she was committed to our marriage. She started attending counseling, and we had open discussions about our feelings and expectations. It was difficult, to say the least. Some days I saw glimpses of the woman I fell in love with, while other days I felt the shadows of distrust creeping back in. During one of our counseling sessions, the therapist encouraged us to express our feelings without judgment. I found myself breaking down, sharing how deeply her actions had affected my self-worth. "I don't just feel betrayed," I told her, my voice trembling. "I feel like I lost a part of myself. I don't know if I can ever fully trust you again." Jenna listened intently, tears streaming down her face. "I never wanted to make you feel that way," she whispered. "I was selfish and caught up in my own life. I didn't realize the damage I was causing." The therapist helped guide us through these difficult conversations, and slowly the walls began to come down. We explored the reasons behind her choices and my own feelings of inadequacy. It was a long, painful process, but we were learning to communicate in ways we hadn't before. But just when I thought we were making progress, a new wave of uncertainty hit me. One Friday night, Jenna had plans with her friends, and I was at home scrolling through social media when I saw another post from Derek. He had tagged Jenna in a photo from an event, and the caption read, "Had a great time last night, even with the drama." My stomach dropped. It stung to realize that even after our discussions, she was still engaging with him in public spaces. Despite her assurances that she wanted to move forward, this felt like a betrayal all over again. I felt the anger rekindling within me, and the fragile trust we had been building began to crumble. When Jenna came home later that evening, I confronted her immediately. "You're still in contact with him, aren't you?" I demanded, my voice strained with emotion. "What? No, it was just a social event." Jenna replied defensively. "I told you he just wanted to be friends. It's not like that. It doesn't matter if you're being friends. You were just trying to reconnect with someone who hurt us." "Both," I snapped, fury bubbling over. "You can't expect me to trust you when you keep putting yourself in situations that make me question your loyalty." "I didn't mean to hurt you," she shot back, frustration seeping into her voice. "Can't you see that I'm trying? You're making it impossible for me to earn your trust." "Trying isn't enough, Jenna," I yelled. "Actions matter more than words, and right now, your actions are saying you're not committed to making this work." As the argument escalated, I felt the ground beneath our fragile reconciliation shift once again. My heart raced, caught in a whirlwind of anger and hurt, and I was left wondering if our attempts to heal were futile. Would I ever be able to truly forgive her? Would we ever find our way back to each other in the wake of her betrayal? In that moment, I realized I had to take a step back and reevaluate everything. I needed to stop reacting emotionally and start thinking about what I truly wanted, not just for our marriage, but for myself. And more importantly, I needed to protect my heart before it was shattered all over again. After that heated confrontation, I felt utterly lost. I knew I had to step back and gain some perspective, not just for Jenna, but for myself. The chaos of emotions was suffocating, and I needed to reclaim my sense of self. I spent the next few days in a haze, reflecting on what I wanted moving forward. I immersed myself in the community activities I had recently started, leaning into the connections I was building with others. The people I met at the charity event were supportive and kind, reminding me that I was worthy of respect and love. In their presence, I could laugh, share stories, and momentarily forget the turmoil at home. But Jenna's attempts to reach out continued. She texted me regularly, asking if we could talk, if we could meet for coffee, if we could just have some time together to reconnect. I appreciated her efforts, but I wasn't ready to dive back into our relationship just yet. I needed distance to reflect, to heal, and to determine what I wanted and deserved. One day, while volunteering at the community center, I was talking to a woman named Lisa, who had been through a similar situation. She shared her journey of overcoming betrayal and how she learned to prioritize her own happiness. "You deserve a partner who values you," she said, her eyes filled with compassion. "Don't forget that in the midst of everything. Take the time you need to figure out what you want." Her words resonated deeply with me. I realized that while I was focused on Jenna's feelings, I had neglected to consider my own. I needed to prioritize my emotional well-being. The truth was, I still loved Jenna, but love alone couldn't mend the fractures in our relationship. That evening, I decided to send Jenna a text. "I think we need to have a serious conversation." I typed, my heart racing as I hit send. I wanted to lay everything out on the table, to be honest about where I stood and what I expected moving forward. She responded almost immediately, expressing eagerness to meet. We decided to meet at a small cafe where I had spent many happy moments with her before everything changed. As I drove there, my heart pounded in my chest. Would I be able to communicate everything I felt without being overwhelmed by her emotions? When I walked into the cafe, Jenna was already seated, twisting her hair anxiously. She looked up as I approached and offered a tentative smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Hey," she said softly, her voice trembling slightly. "Hey," I replied, taking a seat across from her. The air between us felt heavy with unspoken words. "I've been thinking a lot about everything," Jenna started, her hands fidgeting on the table. "I know I've made mistakes and I want to fix things with you. I just don't know how." I took a deep breath. "I appreciate that you're willing to try, but I need you to understand where I'm coming from. The trust has been broken and it can't be repaired overnight." "I get that," she said, her expression earnest. "I really do, but I want to show you that I'm committed to making this work. I'll cut ties with Derek if that's what it takes. I never meant for it to go this far." "That's a start, but it's not just about him," I replied, my voice steady. "It's about rebuilding the foundation of our relationship. We need to communicate better, and that means being open about everything, feeling safe to express our worries and concerns without defensiveness." Jenna nodded, tears brimming in her eyes. "I want that too. I want us to rebuild what we had. I love you and I hate that I hurt you. I'm willing to do what it takes." "Love isn't enough, Jenna. It's about trust, loyalty, and respect," I said, my heart firming with resolve. "I need to know that you're serious about changing. I can't keep putting myself in a position where I feel betrayed over and over." "I understand," she said, wiping her tears. "I'm scared of losing you, and I'll do anything to prove that I can change." The conversation continued, and we discussed our feelings more openly than we had in a long time. I shared my fears, my pain, and my need for boundaries. Jenna voiced her regrets and her desire to work through this together. But as we spoke, a nagging doubt lingered in the back of my mind. Could I truly trust her again? As we wrapped up our conversation, I laid it all out there. "I think we should consider couples counseling together," I suggested. "It might help us navigate this more effectively with a neutral party. I want a structured environment where we can communicate without the pressure of our emotions clouding the conversation." Jenna looked relieved at my suggestion, nodding eagerly. "I think that's a great idea. I want to do this right and I'm willing to put in the work." As I drove home, a mix of emotions swirled within me. I was cautiously optimistic, but the scar of betrayal still weighed heavily on my heart. I hadn't given up on our marriage, but I knew it wouldn't be easy. Trust would take time to rebuild, and I would need to stay vigilant about my own feelings. In the days that followed, I committed to attending couples therapy with Jenna. It was a daunting prospect, but I held on to the hope that it could help us address our issues constructively. We started to share our experiences more openly, learning to communicate without judgment. It was difficult, but I was determined to reclaim the love we once shared. Yet just as I began to feel hopeful, a blindside came when I received a text from my friend Mark, saying he had seen Jenna and Derek together at a local park, looking cozy and intimate. My heart dropped as the familiar sting of betrayal gripped me once again. I felt my resolve shaking as I contemplated the implications of this new revelation. Would I ever truly be able to trust her again? I was faced with a choice. Should I confront Jenna again, or should I hold off until we had our next counseling session? I knew the answer. I decided to confront her immediately, needing clarity on where things stood now that I had been given yet another reason to question her commitment. I couldn't let this go anymore. I needed to know the truth, and I wouldn't accept anything less than honesty this time. When I got home that evening, my heart raced with both anger and trepidation. I had initially hoped that our efforts at couples counseling would help us heal, but now I felt like everything was unraveling all over again. I couldn't shake the thought of Jenna being with Derek, and I knew I needed to confront her. There was no way I could keep this bottled up. As I stepped inside, I found her in the living room scrolling through her phone. She looked up and smiled, but I could see the flicker of anxiety in her eyes as she sensed my tension. "Hey, how was your day?" she asked, trying to sound casual. "Not as good as yours, apparently," I replied sharply, my voice steady but laced with frustration. "I heard from Mark that you were out with Derek today. Care to explain?" Her face fell, and I could see panic wash over her features. "I was with a group of friends at the park. Derek just happened to be there too. It wasn't what you think." "Not what I think," I echoed incredulously. "You can't be serious. After everything we've been through, how can you think it's okay to be around him? I thought you wanted to rebuild trust." "I do, I promise," she insisted, tears pooling in her eyes. "It was just a coincidence, I swear. I didn't want to be around him, but I can't control who's at the park." "Control has nothing to do with it," I shot back, my heart pounding. "You said you cut ties. This is another betrayal, Jenna. How can I believe anything you say if you keep lying and putting yourself in situations that compromise our relationship?" "I'm not lying," she cried, her voice rising in desperation. "I can't believe you'd think I set this up. I'm trying, I really am." "Trying isn't enough anymore," I replied coldly. "You're making it hard for me to trust you. Do you understand that?" "I can fix this," she pleaded. "I'll stop going to the park. I'll do anything." At that moment, something inside me shifted. I was tired of feeling like I was constantly on trial, second-guessing every interaction she had. I realized I didn't want to live in a relationship filled with doubt and anxiety. "Jenna," I began, my voice steady but somber, "I can't keep doing this. I don't want to fight for a marriage where I feel I can't trust my partner." Her eyes widened in shock, and I could see the realization hit her. "Are you saying you want to end things?" I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of my decision. "I think it's time we face the truth. We've been trying to force something that may not be salvageable. I've spent so long worrying about your feelings that I've neglected my own. I need to take care of myself for once." "No, please don't say that," she exclaimed, reaching for my hand. I pulled away, needing the distance. "I love you. I want to make this work. But it has to be mutual, Jenna. Love isn't enough when trust is broken. I need someone who is committed to me fully, and right now, I don't feel that from you." "I need space to figure myself out," I said, feeling the tears welling in my eyes. "Is this really what you want?" she asked, her voice trembling. "I think it's what I need," I replied. "I can't keep putting myself through this emotional turmoil. I need time to heal, to understand what I truly want. It's hard, but I think we both deserve that." Jenna's face crumpled as she processed my words. I could see the realization sinking in, and it broke my heart. "I'm so sorry for everything," she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I never wanted to hurt you." I wanted to comfort her, to hold her and wash away the pain, but I couldn't. I knew that would only complicate things further. "I need to go," I said, my voice shaking as I turned to leave the room. "We can talk about logistics tomorrow, but right now I need some distance." As I walked out, my heart felt heavy. I had just made one of the hardest decisions of my life, and while it felt necessary, it also left a void. The memories of laughter, love, and shared moments flooded back as I stepped outside. I took a deep breath, trying to process the whirlwind of emotions. In the weeks that followed, I focused on myself. I spent time with friends, started new hobbies, and gradually rediscovered my identity outside of my marriage. It was a healing journey, albeit a painful one. I learned that it was okay to prioritize my well-being and that self-love was not selfish. Jenna and I stayed in touch, navigating the difficult process of separating. We had both made mistakes, and while I still cared for her, I recognized that our love story needed to take a different path. It was painful to let go, but I found solace in the knowledge that I was reclaiming my life. Looking back, I learned that love is complex and sometimes unkind. Trust is the foundation of any relationship, and when it's broken, the pieces don't always fit back together the way they once did. I discovered my strength in vulnerability and my ability to walk away from something that didn't serve me anymore. As I moved forward into this new chapter, I held on to the hope that both Jenna and I would find the happiness we sought, even if it meant doing so apart. The journey of healing was just beginning, but I knew I had to stay true to myself. I was ready to embrace whatever came next, stepping into the unknown with an open heart and a renewed sense of purpose.